Don't you think that one of our greatest fears as parents, it was definitely one of mine, was that we might screw our children up completely, that we might pass down dysfunctional family patterns and really, you know, mess our children up, basically. It's a really deep primordial fear, I find. And I'm Una Alexander, Radically Loving Parenting, and I help you radically love your child to happiness and naturally great behavior. And I definitely know all about getting it wrong because in the family in which I grew up, in my family of origin, everyone used to joke that I was a mistake. You know, you were a mistake, Una. Mummy was furious when she found out she was pregnant with you. So I felt wrong, as if I'd got it wrong. I literally was wrong through my very existence from the very beginning. And so this has dogged me right through my life that I might make another mistake. If I do something, oops, I might get it wrong. And and that has been, quite a thing to unpick for me. And I'm still at it. I'm work in progress. Because, we think that if we're very, very aware, or part of us at least thinks this, um, but part of us thinks that if we're very, very aware of what we might get wrong, then we're more likely to get it right. But in fact, the research shows completely the opposite. This just isn't right. And also, my personal research, and I don't know if you're the same, but my personal anecdotal research on myself and with the clients that I work with tells the same story, that when we're worried about getting it wrong, focused on getting it wrong, being critical of ourselves, that it actually compounds any difficult situation we're in, because naturally we feel guilty, we feel fearful, we feel anxious, we feel maybe grumpy and negative, and we're not going to show up as our best selves when we're feeling like that. So what can we do about it? Because this is a very real fear, and it's all very well just to say, don't fear that. What can we actually do about it? Because this is a very real part of ourselves that's sometimes called the inner critic, who who feels that it has a job to criticize us, and it has our best interests at heart. It has the best of intentions, and so the inner critic will, criticize the hell out of us in order to prevent us from making mistakes and being vulnerable. Basically, it wants to prevent us from being vulnerable. So, what can we do when we hear that voice? You're getting it wrong. You might get it wrong. Well, one thing we can do is literally turn to it and say, thank you for sharing. And I understand that you want to keep me safe, and I hear what you're saying, and I hear that you're worried. So literally acknowledge it, like we might acknowledge a child. And the other thing, because we need to do whatever we can do to help ourselves feel better. And so one way is to acknowledge the inner critic, but attempt to separate ourselves a little from it, so that we recognize that it's just a voice in us, but it isn't us. It's a part of ourselves that wants to keep us safe. The other thing we can do is that we can just look after ourselves and help ourselves feel better. It's really interesting that last week I asked my community on Facebook what message would they like to send to their younger selves when they had their first child, started their family. And none of them wanted to send the message to their younger selves, get it right, don't get it wrong. They all sent messages, all of you sent messages like this: take time for yourself, rest where you can, ask for help, and look after yourself, rest. There were a lot of encouragements to rest. And I just, I felt this is so true, that the most important thing we can do, especially if the inner critic has been let loose or is kind of getting active, is just to be kind to ourselves, is to rest, do something to feel better, put your feet up, have a cup of tea, take a break if you can, ask for help. And thirdly, what we can do um, when we're worried about getting it wrong is to gradually start unpicking that thinking that divides things into right and wrong. I think this is a lifetime's work, and I'm definitely still at it. But what if it wasn't about getting it right and getting it wrong? What if this duality didn't exist? What if we were just all on a learning path, a path of learning, of growth and development? And what if it was, I mean, how would you feel if it was impossible for you to get it wrong? How would you feel? How would you feel if you could only get it right? And I've been experimenting with that when I kind of press the go live button here on these lives, and it makes the world of difference because I'm not going into it thinking, oh, I must say this, I must say that, mustn't get that wrong, must do this bit. I'm actually I'm just being who I am, showing up as I am, doing my best in the moment. And I would encourage you to do this also with your children. You know, just step into the moment, whether you're going to pick your child up or you're starting off the day, step into it with the sense that you can't get it wrong. Because you can't. You literally can't. And there was one more thing that I wanted to say. Yeah, the other thing is if you feel, you haven't showed up in the way that you would have wanted to show up for your child, and this happens to all of us. It happened to me on the weekend. I got very impatient when my son, I was going somewhere giving my son a lift, and he kept me waiting. And I've of course felt it was unreasonable, this keeping me waiting at that particular point, because we always do at that point when we're getting impatient. And and so what we can do in those situations is be sure to repair. And repair is so important. It makes all the difference between connected parent and disconnected parent, because when we leave things without the repair, then those impatient moments don't get healed. And it really is just enough to say, something like, I missed an opportunity to connect or to be patient or to show understanding. I'm sorry. I said to my son on this occasion, I'm sorry, it was not my finest moment. And when we get into the way of speaking with our children like this and saying, actually, what was happening for me was this. I had a phase of my son where we used to have those kind of conversations quite a lot. Well, actually, what I was feeling was this. I was nervous that, we'd be late for school and teachers would think ill of me or something like that. So I would reveal what was actually going on, and then he would start doing it too, and he did, and he still does. Also, just even when I haven't, he'll come and say, I'm sorry, actually what was happening was this. And that's gold for me, because then we're talking about real things, having real heart to heart conversations with our children, even when things have gone wrong. So even when things have gone wrong, we can make it right, if we want to bring that duality back in, because it's there in our lives, in our minds, in our societies, right and wrong. It's very powerful. Um, and I think we can learn to work with it in these positive connecting ways. And if you like what I've shared here, first of all, do give me a heart or a thumbs up. Appreciate that. It means that other people will see it. And also, you may want some practical help for how to take this further into your family life, so that you don't get into these difficult, conflicted situations so often. And if that's the case for you and you haven't yet downloaded my guide, Solve the Struggle with Your Kids, then I really recommend it, because there are a lot of practical tips, there are concrete examples and things you can do and say that fit right in, that arise right out of my radically loving approach. And that's available on unaalexander.co.uk/solve the struggle. So I invite you to go there now, and lots of love to you. Bye.